This is the lesson for Chapter 1, Section 3, titled Solving Equations with Variables on Both Sides, Day Number 1. So on our first problem here, what we're trying to do is find the value of x. It says that the value of the solid's surface area is equal to the value of the solid's volume. So what we need to do is set up an equation. And so the first thing is to find the surface area. So basically surface area equals volume. So the surface area is if we take the 6 sides and 6 different sides and add them together, but 2 of them are the same if we're dealing with a rectangular solid. So for instance, this side is 5 by this length here is 6. So I've got 2 times 5 by 6, and then plus, and then I'll do the top here. So the top is, this length is x, and this is x. Or this is 6, so x by 6, so 2 of those, the top and the bottom. So I've got x times by 6. And then I've got one more side, I've got this side here. And so I've got plus 2 times x by 5. So this length here, the shorter side here, is 5, because you see how this side going up and down, the height is 5. So 5 times by x. So all of this is the surface area, and it equals the volume. And the volume is just the product of all of these sides, 5 times 6 times x. And so I go ahead and do the work here. This is 30 times 2 gives me 60. And then over here I have 2 times 6x gives me 12x. And over here I have 2 times 5 gives me 10x. And on this side I have 30x when I multiply the 5 and the 6. So all I'm doing is collecting like terms now. So I have 60 plus 22x equals 30x. And so from there, let's fix that real quick. So 30x. So now I can go ahead and subtract the 22x from both sides. And that gives me just 8x equals 60. And so when I divide by 8, it's not going to go in there evenly, but I can go ahead and do the division anyhow. And 8 times 7 makes 56. And I do the subtraction, and I'm left with 4 left over. And so from that point, I can go ahead and do 7 4/8, which reduces down to 7 1/2. And so that gives me the value of x. And in this case here, let's see here, this is in inches. So let's go ahead, and I'm running out of room there, so I'll rewrite it here. 7 1/2 inches is the answer there. So on the next one, we'll go ahead and combine some like terms, but there are none. I can't combine on the right hand side of the equal sign, so I have to do opposite operations here. So I'm going to subtract the 5 2/10 x from both sides. And so that leaves me with 1 5/10 x equals 12 3/10. So when I do the division, I have to divide by 1.5 on both sides. And I'm going to move the divisor in the divisor's decimal over one space, the dividend's decimal over one space as well. So really I'm doing 15 into 123. So 15 does not go into 12, and so it's probably going to be quite a large number. I'm going to try 8 to start with. And 8 times 5 makes 40, and I have to carry 4, and so that's going to make 12, and so I was just 3 off there. So I'm going to have to add a decimal point and bring down a 0. And so I go 15 into 30 goes 2 times evenly. So let's fix that. So 8 2/10, that is our answer there. So x equals 8 2/10. So in the next problem, we've got a fraction to deal with. Well, we've got to do opposite operations to move the 1/8 p over. So I'm going to add it to both sides. And when I do that, that gives me 4/8 p. So 4/8 represents 1/2 if I reduce that fraction. So I'm going to rewrite this as negative 24 equals 1/2 p. To solve this, I do an opposite operation. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, 2 over 1, on both sides. And that's going to cancel out the 2's, and then multiplying gives me negative 48 equals p. So a couple other problems, or one more problem here. It talks about that we've got these 2 cars, and we're supposed to solve and write an equation. So when we're writing the equation on this one, we want to first of all look at and a little further in the description here, and it says we're trying to write and solve an equation to find the number of miles you must drive to have the same cost. So the same, the key word that kind of gives it away here. So same means equal cost for each rental. So we're going to basically take this rental and set it equal to this other rental. So there's a component that's going to be changing each time. We're always going to pay this $15, but we're going to add on this 50 cents for every mile. So 1 mile is just 50 cents, but we don't know how many miles we're going to go. So I'm going to say M equals the number of miles. Miles driven, I was going to say there. So let's change that. Miles driven. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set this equal to the other, which is 25. So you're always going to pay that $25, but only one time. Then you pay 25 cents for every mile. So you pay less per mile here, but you start off with more money initially. So now we're ready to solve. So we're just going to do opposite operations to undo this equation. So I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides, and I'm going to subtract this 25 hundredths m from both sides. And so that leaves me with 25 hundredths m equals 10. So now I'm going to divide by 25 hundredths, and I'm moving that decimal point over 2 spaces, so adding 2 zeros here, and I'm going to do 25 into 1,000. And so 25 goes into 100 4 times evenly, and then I still have this 0, so I have to bring that 0 up. And so my answer is M equals 40. So after 40 miles, the cost will end up being the same. So those are the types of problems that we're going to end up seeing on tonight's homework. Good luck.